And I'm pleased to introduce Carol Rose, who's the Executive Director of the American Civil Liberties Union of Massachusetts.
Hi, thank you. I am Carol Rose. I'm the Executive Director of the ACLU of Massachusetts, which means that I'm actually standing up here on behalf of the 22,000 members of supporters of the ACLU here in Massachusetts who want this bill fixed. I'm going to be really brief, but I do want to say one thing. You know, my initial thought was I was so thankful that I didn't have to speak right after Professor Ogletree or Reverend Rivers or any of these people. Then I just thought, no, you know, I'm really thankful I didn't have to go after Jamie Ayers because, you know, you are great, and she is the real reason that this is a bill that needs to be fixed. It's the human cost and the real people's lives. We're not talking about numbers and statistics here. We're talking about human beings, and that's why we make the right choices. Now, nonetheless, our country, our United States, ranks #1 in the world for locking up people. We comprise only 5% of the world's populations, but 25% of the world's prisoners. These are our own people we're locking up. And nearly half of those people are in jail and prison for nonviolent offenses. And we know who bears the burden of that because of disproportionate impact from sentencing, from who gets stopped, who gets frisked, who get sentenced and how they get sentenced. We know that Black Americans and Latinos disproportionately bear the burden of this over-incarceration crisis, even though white Americans commit the same amount of crimes as their counterparts. It's shocking. 1 in 9 Black American men between the ages of, 19 and 24 are in prison right now. That's shameful. So how do we get here? Well, like Commissioner Dennehy said, it's policies of the last 40 years like war on drugs and tough on crime that have led us to these failed legislative efforts like 3 strikes, mandatory minimum sentencing here in Massachusetts. These aren't based on scientific facts or efficacy. It's based on fear, mostly fear of not getting reelected, I might add. But these policies have done nothing to actually create public safety in our communities. What they've done is create overcrowded prisons, they've burdened the taxpayers, and they've created a whole culture, a counterproductive culture that turns to incarceration as our first rather than our last resort. So how do we get out of this mess? Well, one thing we can do is learn from the experiences of other states, as Commissioner said. The ACLU recently released a report which we've made available to every member of the state legislature. Smart reform is possible. Got the numbers there. It sets out real specific steps that states can and that, frankly, Massachusetts needs to take to reduce our over-incarceration and to free up tax dollars for programs that we can invest to make strong and healthy communities in our Commonwealth. We have to eliminate mandatory minimums. We just have to do this. And we have to reject any kind of a 3 strikes proposal. Those 2 things alone at the very top of the agenda must be done. It's kind of one-size-fits-all law creates these dragnets that just funnel good people into dead-end lives. And it diverts public resources away from our communities and from our kids. In Ohio, the state legislature just passed a smart reform bill. They saved $1 billion, okay? And they cut their prison population by 14%. In Mississippi, they passed a smart reform bill, $450 million of savings every single year, and the crime rate is at a 27-year low out there in Mississippi. They're passing smart reform in Texas, in Kansas, in South Carolina, in Kentucky. They're looking at it in California, Louisiana, Maryland, and Indiana. What is wrong with Massachusetts that we're going in the other direction, ladies and gentlemen? What are we doing? We're the first in the nation. We're supposed to be the land of the free, remember? And if our leaders want to make true and lasting public safety reform, and I want them to do that, they need to say no to 3 strikes and then vote to eliminate mandatory minimums for nonviolent offenders, and that's what this bill should be about. Now, right now, we, Massachusetts taxpayers, spend about $530 million every year for the Department of Corrections. $530 million. But these proposals, the 3 strikes, the mandatory post-release supervision, the proposals around parole eligibility, just those 3 alone, that could increase that bill from $530 by another $100 to $200 million a year in our tax dollars. So I was thinking, wow, $100 to $200 million, that's a lot of money. What could we do with that kind of money? was thinking about it. So I went to this website called the National Priorities Project, where you can compare, like, if I had this much money, what could I buy? It's public trade-offs and public spending. So this is what I learned. Well, first of all, if we say no to 3 strikes and we eliminate mandatory minimums, we'd save enough money to hire 1,000 new elementary school teachers here in Massachusetts. Isn't that great? We could provide 25,000 children with low-income health care. We could send 10,000 kids to Head Start, new kids. I'm liking this better. 7,000 scholarships for people to go to college. Or if you're so inclined, we could hire 1,000 new police officers to walk our streets and keep our streets safe by having community-based policing. All right, I'm not getting no applause on that one, but it's, you could. Okay. I'm just saying you could. Any one of those alternatives has got to be better than locking up more people for the rest of their lives. It's just got to be better. So I would just say it's time for Massachusetts to get smart on crime by making investments in real public safety so that we can build a nation and a commonwealth where we can be safe and free. And now it's my distinct pleasure to invite back to the podium a person who's been a hero in this whole movement, who lights the fire under all of us to do the right thing for all the right reasons, Ms. Leslie Walker.